We've got a lot to talk about. We've got a lot of build information to talk about, a fitting adjustment to talk about. I'm going on another golf trip to talk about all next and what's in my drawers golf talk. Welcome back to What's in My Drawers Golf Talk. Jim McCleary here, and it's all about what's in my drawers that's in the shop over there. Why do we do that? It's because old club makers, club fitters are tremendous pack rats, and I'm no different. So what do we do here? We talk about golf club repairs, golf club reviews, golf club fittings. All so your scores can go low. So we're going to talk about all that and a lot of other stuff that's in between. All righty. So as we do it, we talk about what Colin Morikawa ended up winning the Zozo. Good for him. I guess he won it in I would say medium-sized putt, and he dropped it in. He must have had a hot streak going. There were some ridiculously high winds. I saw a video not too long ago, but congratulations to him. All righty. So we got a lot to talk about in builds. So I got to preface this. I am going on another golf trip this weekend to Pinehurst with another group of people that I work with. And a bunch of good guys. Bob and I are going. We've golfed with these guys before in Kentucky. This time it's around Pinehurst. A lot of guys this is a bucket list trip for them, so it's all good and dandy. So for the last 3 days, Mrs. McGolf has been on me to get all my stuff done before I leave. And let me tell you, she did. And so we're gonna have to get started with that. But to go back, remember I went to Wisconsin last week. I'm giving a nod to the squeaky cheese. All right. Stuff's pretty good, especially when it gets a little bit more room temperature. I'm down with the squeaky cheese. All right, as far as repairs go, got a lot to cover here. So we called this the Acra week, or at least an Acra day. If we look at this, we have a VRTX Blue went into a driver, lefty, of course. Then we've got 3 Acra I series, and they all went into separate drivers over here, and we'll talk about one of them. That's pretty interesting. A couple of Acra I series wedge shafts, and these are actually wedge shafts now. And then we get into the black shaft and the 3 Acras underneath. Those are FX 3.0s, and that's a driver shaft and a couple of 3, I believe they're hybrids. Yep. And they'll be hybrids. And then the TZs, the iron shaft TZs. This is a big deal. So we'll talk some about that. All righty. So what that was is just to, I carry other shafts to be sure, but as far as that goes, it was pretty impressive for an Acra day, right? So one of those is going to be the video for tomorrow. And so if you see this stuff going across the bottom right about there, talks about liking and subscribing, please do. Tell your friends, invite them over. Let's make this a big what to do. I'd like to be able to talk to you guys for quite a bit, answering questions from all over the world. So anyway, we'll go back and I don't know if you can see me pointing, but it is the 1, 2, 3, 4th driver from the top, the very bottom I series driver. That adapter refused to come out in any normal shape and fashion. All right, tried punching it, tried heating it, tried turning it, nothing. All right, and this was the express idea of not damaging it. So we drilled it out. We put a new shaft in it. The guy's killing it. He looks down and the adapter cracks on him. So now he's like, well, what are we going to do now? Pardon me. So prior to that, he asked me whether he couldn't take the shaft out. Sure enough, we couldn't. Brings it back broken, so still can't take it out. I put a new shaft in. He really, really likes it. Cracks the adapter. And I said, well, there's nothing I can do with that. And because I'm not going to destroy the head just for the mere fact of trying to get this thing out. So he comes back, he shows back up into the shop, and he's got an identical version of that driver sitting in one hand and the broken driver in the other. Okay. And he says, I want this shaft that's in this broken driver with a new adapter to go into this head since that adapter won't come out. Pardon me again. And now that I can do. And he says, and if you want, you have permission to destroy this head to get that adapter out. I just want to know what's in there. And I already told him what was in there. But he says, I said, okay, no problem. So again, Mrs. McGolf, being the wonderful slave driver she is, that, and I'm looking out there, she's out there. Anyway, says, let's get on this and let's make a video of this. And I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. So I literally destroyed the adapter. I literally destroyed the adapter in order to pull it off. And it was full of verdigris, which I knew was going to be there. And so we were able to save the head after much buffing because I made this thing hot and got it out there, cleaned it out, and we were able to put together. Anyway, to see what's going on, and we talk about what's going on in it and how to deal with some pings in the other one. So please watch it, and I'm sure you'll like it. I was going to show you about what it is. So at the bottom of each one of these adapters that would go into something like this, in most cases, there's a cog, a gear at the bottom. And that's, you'll see that is for, not for ping, not for Callaway, because they use the cogs on the top, and not for Tylus, but TaylorMade has them, and all the other adapters that they'll have those little cogs on the bottom. And that's what holds the torque for when you go to slide it in. And it's the elliptical part of it doesn't go in straight, it goes in cockeyed, and then there's a rib around there that keeps it centered. And so that those together is what helps keep that adapter together and not flying off. So again, if you would watch it tomorrow, it'll come out at 7 o'clock in the morning, and so tell me what you think. Alrighty, so we go from Acroday to building two more wedges. This is if you look, this is the two wedges that are in here. So we're breaking it down. Some Cleveland wedges that we built. The more I deal with this Cleveland wedge, the more I tend to like it. Still not one of my favorite yet, but it tends to work for a lot of people. So, hey, I'm not going to ignore it. There's a better look of it with all the grip in the shaft. Next online is a set of Mizunos with some Modus, I think they're 105s, and some pro grips. Now, this golfer has been coming to the range forever. That dude is a ball beating machine. And turns out, this is a classic case of why you need to get fit. He'd been running with some TaylorMades, and okay, TaylorMades are fine club. And however, it was always those players cat or the super game improvement type clubs that they had. Pardon me. And when they normally do that, they normally make them a half-inch longer and they make them lighter so you can swing them faster. They go further, that kind of stuff. Except for you don't make very good contact, and then you're wondering what's going on. Well, he also had a very vertical swing, so his stature he wasn't, he's a 5'10" guy, so he's not short, with a vertical swing. And we came around and we figured out he needed a half of an inch short iron. So he had a 1 inch change in his club. And when he did that, he started finding the center, and we gained him somewhere around 15 yards. So the classic reason for doing this, right? And he's getting ready to retire. He's a construction person and strong in the hands. Holy smokes, was he strong! And so that's what we saw. So this is what it looked like. The Mizuno Pros, not the Mizuno Hot Metals, with a Mizuno T24 wedge. Just absolutely slaughtered it. There, okay, so now we're up to Scott. Scott, who is Helen on here, got a whole entire set. So we're going to have to go through this piece by piece by piece. I want to show there's a piece of it. Now, if you look here, those are Wilson D9 forged, and there's a lot of lead tape across the bottom. Not a lot, but there's some. And then you see some Mizuno T24 wedges of different grinds, a Makefield putter. And if we look at it this way, it's a better layout. So we've got a Mizuno driver, Callaway 3-wood, we're staying with his hybrids because we couldn't. He just hit those things so good. The Wilson irons, Mizuno, and Makefield. This is what you call. My golf spy would love this because it's all the different manufacturers that fit him. We went with the FXs in that one. We went with the. Get a little closer. Oop, there you go. There we go. We went with the TZs. He's the one who went with the TZs. Now I'm here to tell you, we went and so Scotty wanted a heavier club because that was his preference. Now the deal here is the heavy. Everyone wants to assign heavy to swing weight, when in reality it's more of a feel thing. And in a lot of cases, as if you lighten the shaft, the head weight starts to appear a little bit more because you got to find a balance out there. And he was just absolutely killing it without weight, but he said he'd like to have something a little heavier. And we put a little bit more grip on the back, so to get him where he wanted to be, because he didn't want any heel weighting or hosel weighting, we had to put the the tape on it. Now the funny part is that in each and every iron, I had to put the tape on differently because of the way that the bottom, the toe piece was a little bit bigger in some and a little bit thinner in others, and so I had to get fairly, we'll say, artistic in the approach of adding these things. And sometimes I would cut them in the middle where it would go up and just fold it down in there so it still maintained the shape. Sometimes I cut it along the bottom and then made it so it just fit flat. Sometimes I would just snip the middle of it and go from this to this so that it would fit, or even better, this to this so that it would fit. And then because I was putting on about 4 layers on just about every one of them. Okay. So it was certainly an escapade. Now the Mizunos, because of the different weights and keeping them in the lengths that we kept them in, we only had to apply just a hair's bit of tape. In fact, one I didn't have to. So that's going to work out pretty good. All righty. So then Scotty, if you're listening, in the hybrids, all right, I looked at what we had, and in the hybrids, we had a change in shaft weight. Actually went up a little bit, so I kept the weights in there and really only changed the swing weight maybe 2 points. So it should feel pretty doggone good. I'm pretty confident in that one. And then he went with the Mizuno ST, and this thing, he just absolutely clobbered these things. And then finally, which surprised the heck out of me, but he went with it, was the putter in that Helen ended up buying it for him. But he putted very well with it, but he puts very well with his current putter too. So just a few more pictures of what it looked like. There we go. Let's go. So a lot of Acra stuff. All right. Lastly, if you remember me showing you a picture of the tall girl that we fit, and so this is what she ended up with. Hey, we're getting closer. The ZX4s, and they went with the Nippon 950s. And the reason why we had to do that was that we made them a half of an inch long, and then we only had to make them a half a degree upright. So even with length, and then she liked the mid-sized Win LTs. And let's see if I can show you a picture. There it is. And she also went with a Makefield putter. Now, this one was much different than Scotty's in that she actually had a real screen door kind of swing. And the minute I put a little bit more weight in it, man, it's just straightened her right out. And so it's pretty good. Anyway, with the length of the clubs, unless you're going to go something freakishly light, you're still going to have a higher swing weight. So with that little mid grip, it helped pull down on it, and there's still swing weight wise. It's funny, swing weight wise, they would register heavy, and more so than even Scott's, even with all that lead tape. But Scott's feels heavier than Lauren's does. It's amazing what, we're golfers. We're just a weird bunch. I mean, we just are. And I figured I'd show you that. Remember, if you guys got to see the video, this is the glass right here. It's got the new one with the clover just on the outside, the Callaway going on, and then it's right here. If you can't, I know you can't see it, but there's the McGolf logo. Pretty big. It's a good visit with those guys. All right, went golfing. It was just a horrible showing on Jim's account. I hit the ball, kept it in front of me, never lost one to right or left. I just could not get it to the green. Could not get it to the green. I was like a yard off every single time, and I wasn't getting any bounce on, nothing. And the grass is a little thicker, so needed to play it up a little bit more. And I also experienced a couple of three putts, which was disheartening at best, but we got through it. And so I want to show you just here in Southern Ohio, when the leaves change, it's pretty cool, and you get to see, where there's a lot of the bright red trees, and you're just starting to see them. The yellows and the oranges are starting to pop in right there, and then there's a par three where you get to see a lot of that stuff in the background. Now, I will say that at Crown Hill, they are making some serious improvements. That they've already dug up probably half a dozen tee boxes to level them out and put new sod back on, and so we'll see a lot of improvement. And not to be outdone, it's barbecue season, and last night we did those country western. I call them country western. They're actually western style ribs, and they're pork, and they're just basically either really thick pork chops that aren't a little further down, or they're really thick ribs. There's a little more meat on the bone. They're about the A wide and that tall. I think they cook up better. So we end up doing pretty good there. Okay, that's the builds. We talked about some fittings. We talked about how to destroy a golf club, and we got through that. Now, this weekend, I fit a chiropractor that was in his 70s from the southern end of Cincinnati, and the dude had a pretty good swing. I started wearing him out because we were struggling trying to find a good iron. Uh, he had bought some PXGs, he had bought some Mizunos, and what he was doing is reading online. Again, a case in point for more fitting. Was what he was saying is that he was reading it, and very forgiving iron goes far, very forgiving iron goes far, very forgiving iron goes far, and they do, and they are for certain swings. And Doc had a very nice swing that he was a picker, and he went very vertical as well. So once I got his lie angles up, which I'll give PXG credit, they were up the right amount, but what was getting in his way was a thicker sole. So when you're coming down very, very steep and you're picking the ball, the trailing edge tends to become just as important as anything else, because it'll kick the club forward and you don't get the best out of the club. So that was what was happening, because the soles were wider. Because we tested him with the club he wanted to try, he hit it better, but not awesome. And his dispersion was really a push out towards the right. And to keep in mind that the PXGs and these Mizunos have more offset, being more forgiving. I said, you've been golfing for a while, scoring pretty good scores. Let's do something else. So I went to the Mizuno Pros, and all of a sudden it was just like night and day. And I switched from. He also told me some of the stuff he liked. He liked Acra shafts. Go figure. And he liked rifle shafts. So which I've got both of those. So we finished on. We needed about a 70-gram shaft. So I put him in the TZ, and the way that he was late releasing, the TZ was working very, very well. So we had the shaft. It was time to find the head. We had him in the Mizuno Pro, and I thought, okay, that's a pretty good number. Now we want to get a little bit of distance. Let's see what we can do. And I put him into a Strixon ZX4, and because of the leading edge is very, very narrow, and then the back end of the V sole goes up, it never engaged. And man, talk about, he hit 5 clean shots in a row, which he had never done in the rest of the testing. So that made his setup. Now we also tried the Callaway product. hit the Callaway product pretty good, but the sole was still interfering. It was that piece in the back that was really working for him. So we went with that. Then we ended up going with I tried him in a Mizuno driver. I tried him in another one, but it just turned out that we had him in I believe we got him in a Callaway driver. And it's, again, another hodgepodge of different stuff. He liked his wedges, so we didn't mess with the wedges. He was kind of a modified side saddle. And with the modified side saddle, his putter wasn't bent properly. So we bent his putter so that it would sole. And as soon as he did that, man, it was all the hitches in his swings just disappeared. So again, something to be said for go and get fit. All right, I think we hit them all, man. We got all the topics. We talked about food. We talked about golf. We talked about clubs. Let's do some comments. All righty, let's go to the top. All right, there's Matt. First in. Hi, guys. No rounds. Question: what is your favorite tool in the shop, and what tool is the hardest find and purchase? Ooh, Matt, these are good questions. Well, the hardest one to find was my shaft puller. The shaft puller, I looked, and because at the time when I bought mine, there was only really um, the screw types, the kind you can get from Mitchell, which I had two of them, and I pulled plenty of golf clubs. It was just it was just forever. It was just forever. It wasn't speedy, and I stumbled onto a bigger screw type. It was called Golf Instruments out of California, that was on tour trailers, and that was very, very expensive. And to this date, it's still being used, except for the company's out of business. So if this thing breaks on them, they're done. They got to go find something else. And the only thing out there was a levered one that GolfWorks had, and the hydraulic stuff just started catching wind. Well, King Collins had made the Python, which is the one I've got, and it did everything I needed to do. It was fast, it pulled, it was all kinds of neat stuff, and it was expensive, but it wasn't nearly as expensive as the rest of them, as the instruments. It was a up there, but it wasn't as much as the other one. So it met a price point, and I've been using it for the last 20 years, and I've replaced the hydraulic pump on it. The rest of the stuff has been working just fine. And I did replace the grips. You can get them anywhere, and replace those. I've replaced them twice now. So even after all that, that was the hardest one to find. The favorite tool in the shop. Oh wow. Uh, I'm trying to get past all the ones that I use normally. Uh, I think I'm going to have to go with uh, it'll either be between my length measuring, the Accumade, or the frequency machine. I like it because the way that it works. I like the way both of them work, and what they end up doing is they both help me make a better club, and I like both of those. So the Accumade ruler or my Golf Mechanics frequency machine, I like both of those. Now again, I mean I like all my tools honestly, but my Loft and Lie machine, or my bender, that one's pretty nice too. Although I probably need to get it refurbished. Go from there. All right. Michael Moody, back from 18, lost about 6 balls in the leaves. It's about that time, isn't it? Using an orange golf ball in the fall is probably not what we want to do. And look at this. I got a whole lot of, look at that. There we go. Oh, that's from my light. Let's see if I can turn that a little bit. There we go. Hey, there we go. I don't look like I got high blood pressure now. See, there we go. Yeah, the orange balls in the fall around here, even red ones, not so much. The white ones, or those neon greens, are probably the way to go. Rounds of 80, 79, 85. I guess should I blame it on the win? Well, the first two are outstanding there, Charlie. Not too bad. 85 is a solid number when you're playing poorly. So not bad. Not bad at all. Hello to you too, sir. And this is Glenfiddich 15 in the glass, right? Okay. There's Scott. How you doing? Charlie talking to Matt. Terry Lockwood, how are you, sir? Thank you for joining us. Phil K's in Austin. How are you? Trying to drop scores to match our lower temperatures. What? Well, if that's the case, what are you doing? Shooting in the 80s now? You were suffering there for some really tall temperatures not too long ago. Hey, hi. Oh my God, yes. And I like it when the golf course, the guy comes around with the blower or uses the mower to pushes the leaves out of the way. Holy smokes. There's John Cherry. How are you, sir? He says, everybody hit that thumbs up. Thank you. I appreciate it. 78, 75, 79. Sure do miss my hybrids. Jim is reshafting for me, but it did make 7 birdies on all par 3s. Holy smokes, dude. Holy smokes. Charlie's all in that. Yep. That's some serious scoring, dude. I got Charlie. At least you got to play. Uh-oh. We're talking about that. Oh, there's Peter. Peter shot a 74, 73, had 4 birdies on Saturday using a long putter, still getting used to it on long putts of 40 foot. You need to talk to Bob there, Peter. And you know what I'm talking about. Oh, my goodness. Of course, one would say just hit it closer to the hole. No doubt. No doubt. So Peter and I have been talking about something that we can reshaft or put another uh, in a mirror, I think is what you were showing me, and putting a broom, what we call ski poles. Some people call them broomsticks. They originally called ski poles in there, and finding what would work really, really well. Now in ski poles are very, very, uh, they're thick, they're heavy, and they're very small when it comes to that. And and honestly, if we could bring back that trend, what a lot of people would do is we would buy ski poles, cut them down to normal length, and it would give you a little bit of weight in the putter, and it would have a very, very, very low torque, which is the popular thing right now. And it's because it works, right? And come back to that. I'd like to see that come back for sure. All righty. Henry, what do you say? Hello. I'll get my question in early since I have the flight to catch. Okay. Mostly due to good putting. Thanks, Charles. All right. Everybody talking to one another. Travis K. I saw a player with lead tape wrapped around the tip of his driver's shaft just above the hosel. Have you ever seen this, and what's the purpose? Yes, I have, and it's to give a sense of weight to the driver without putting it on the head. And for the, that's the best I can tell you. One would think that, oh, it's going to affect the profile of the shaft. Well, when you place weight there in of itself, yes, but by how much is very, very little. And that's just where I've seen a lot of people, that's where they would put it just because of lack of knowledge, right? It just seems like the logical place to put it. All righty. All right, Ron Hunter, if you could pick one thing a fitter must have that would give a customer the most optimal fitting, what would it be? A launch monitor. Launch monitor, for certain. And the reason why I say that is the launch monitor captures all the data of what the golf club, the golf ball, and the golfer are doing, or at least getting you there. That it gets it all. So it tells you your swing speed, it tells you the ball speed, it tells you the path, the face angle, what the golfer's doing. You can even tell if you, depending on the model, whether the golfer's releasing early or if the shaft is releasing early and or not, right? It'll also tell you launch angles, descent rates, spin rates, uh, all just there's a multitude of things that the golfer is doing that you as a fitter, if you know what you're doing, you can tell them, okay, this is what we're doing, and then recommend something else to get to where they need to go. All right. Dimbunga! There we go. Jim Robin, the McGolf Extended family. Thank you, sir. Enjoy Pinehurst. I'm going to try. We got, of course, it's the traditional 3 when you do the scheduling. We're going to get Tullamore, Mid-South, and I believe it's Mid-Pines, which is cool. One of those courses owes me, so I'm down for going back. Scotty, what do you say, sir? Didn't have to work there? How's life at the Golf Exchange? I think next year we'll definitely have to make a trip down there to Batavia and get on that course. Derek, what do you say, sir? Okay, here's Henry's question. Better option for long irons, specifically to get peak height more consistent with my mid iron heights. Graphite or lighter steel? I have mod 125 now. Like the 105 might help me get a peak higher. Well, it depends on your school of thought. Okay. So the Modus 125 and actually, no. I was thinking the 120. The Modus 120 is a softer profile than the 125. 125 is a little more firmer, and the 105 would just be a lighter version of the same. So you're going to gain a little bit of club head speed, although it won't be a terrific amount, but it will be some, and that could gain just my chair. And that could be enough of what you need to get up in the air. Now, the idea here is for your longer irons are not meant to fly as high as your mid irons. That's the reason why they have less loft. The idea is they're going to get up in the air. The if you were to look at it, it'd be wedges, short irons, mid irons, long irons as far as flight height. Now, if you're looking for a little bit more height in order to get a little bit more distance, and you're hitting the ball well, I would say move the ball up in the stance, maybe a quarter of a ball, maybe a half a ball if you can get away with it. That in its own right, you're going to catch the ball in the up, and it's going to launch it a little bit higher. Now, there's a lot going on with that from a swing. I know here's a guy that does clubs telling you about swing. So if this is the club face and you get up, there's this chance you're going to get to the closed as on the up. Now, I'm not telling you to move it this far. I'm telling you to move it like this far in order to, because little tweaks make the biggest difference. None of these big changes, those just cause calamities. All right. So to get you where you want to go. And so the 105 is, again, like I said, is just a lighter version of the 125 from a profile standpoint. You get a little extra speed, you go a little bit up there, and that would be fine. Graphite, just because it's graphite, I can give you the same profile in graphite and make it 95, and it'll be just as stiff as the 105, and you could get to the same spot. But again, it's the same premise. A little bit faster, get the ball going a little bit quicker, and it'll climb just a little bit. That's where you're at. David DeFeo. Hello there, sir. I don't know if she's answering you because this is going to become teaching it's a series. We're going to do a series called Teaching the Teacher. So this is going to be it's going to be kind of fun. S. Young, how are you, sir? Thank you for joining. All right, Derek. Hey, man, I'm trying to paint fill my clubs here. How long should I let the paint dry before using solvent to remove the excess? So, Derek, if you're going to plan on using solvent to remove the excess, I'd say you want to let it cure. So you want to go the next day. All right. And the reason being is once it's cured, you get that skin and the paint's harder and it's harder to remove out of the divot, which is where the paint fill is at. Okay. And once it's hard, then you can be a little bit more aggressive with the removal using acetone. You can just go back and forth. And the stuff on the top, you're going to hit it first because it's above the divot. That is the paint fill. And you'll see it just becomes so much easier. Now, another way of approaching this is that you get your, your little squares of paper towel. You can try it, if you take it off, you can always put more paint back in. Once it's wet and you get to where you want, just very gently and very quickly, just you don't have to go because you'll make a mess of things. Just really soft and go across while it's wet, and then see what you get from there. You can experiment. That's the two different methods of making that happen. Michael Moody and hello. Robin talking back. He got Accra. All right. Yep. Bucket list trip completed in September to Ireland. Nice. Hardest golf of my life. 7.5 rounds in 5 days. Smithwicks flowed like water. Smittix, as they like to call it, right? Where'd you play? That's pretty cool. 7.5 rounds in 5 days. That's a lot of golf, brother, particularly when they make you walk. Henry, keeping on the long iron thought, is it common to have 5 iron be flat like 5 to 1 degree, 4 iron to 1 degree flatter than standard? No, it's not. So what you have is, we'll just start with a 5 iron. Let's assume the 5 iron is 61 degrees in its lie angle. And now we got to assume that it's half-inch increments from the 4 iron on down. So each progressive, so if it's 61, the 4 iron would be 60 and a half. The 6 iron would be 61 and a half. And then 62, 62 and a half, 63, 63 and a half, 64. That's typical. That's the way that they're made so that they all play alike at the same address that you have. Okay. Now, there has been some talk where you can have your wedges a tiny bit flatter. That's so because they're shorter and you can manipulate them. As far as being a little bit flatter at the top, as just that's what they are standard, no. Now, if you're hitting you have a gentle draw with everything 6 iron and below. So pushing, if you're pushing, you might actually bend it up a little bit in order to bring it around. Or if you're hooking it, I'm sorry, yeah, if you're pushing it, you bring it up. Let me say this. Yeah, if you're pushing it or hooking it, you might want to bring it up. But if you're hooking it, you might want to actually flatten it down. I had to think about that for a minute. All righty, they've been talking. John, does it make any difference using a wedge shaft for someone with a handicap in the low 20s? Probably not. All right, I mean, being realistic, unless, now there are some guys that are just getting started and they're athletically gifted, they may be, but as an average golfer doing average stuff, the answer to me would be no. What you're more concerned about with that is a wedge shaft in the particular proper weight, right? You want to make sure you're in the right weight. And what I mean by that is, they've got weights that are 115, 105, 95, 130. You get the right weight and the profile won't matter. Hey, here's a new one. Paul Braze Dare 2. I hope I said that right. All right, what would happen or what could have happened if there's a cracking sound when bending an iron? It sounds like crackling sand. Regards. Okay, so what we're talking about is, so if you're bending an iron, cracking sound when bending an iron. So you're actually bending an iron. That's the glue, man. It does not like to give that much. As long as it's not aggressive, you're okay. And that's funny that you mentioned that. I would love to show you some here. So which allows me to talk about which allows me to talk about this next wedge. So anyway, when people go to bend, when guys are doing this and they go to bend, the golf club will be in a vise that sits like this. And when they go to turn, their ear is what he's talking about. When the ear is here and you're you're bending it down like this and you hear things crackling. Now, it's one of two things, right? It's one of two things, Paul, in that one, there was a default or a defect in the lattice structure, the crystal lattice structure of the metal, and it was on its way to be giving. And that's an easy find if it's truly that loud and obnoxious that down in here, particularly on the backside, you'll start seeing a crease. If you see a crease, you're close to imminent failure on it. Particularly if you go now, you could probably play dozens of rounds and it may never ever break going forward. But if you go to bend it again, there's a real opportunity. It's like bending a metal paper, or I'm sorry, a metal clothes hanger. Eventually, it's going to give. Now, if it's just, you get going there and it's just like, crack, 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 and you're done. What it is, it's probably what you're doing in here is you're moving this around, and you're listening to the epoxy. You're listening to the epoxy, so that's what that one is. All righty, so let me talk about this one. I'm going to do a review on this thing, but I'm here to tell you, Callaway. I am a big fan of this full toe. All right, as you can tell, I used it. I used it quite a bit, and as Bob can attest, I put it through its paces. I used it on just about every shot that one could use it on, and the full toe. So this is a U. So what we've got going on is it's got a higher toe, right? And it's actually bigger than the Jaws Raw. So you can miss it a little bit. And what this is made for is there's the grind that initially came with it allowed you to open the club a little bit more. And when you did, it allowed you to hit up in this neck of the woods and still hit the face. Now the face was a little more aggressive, and so you got a little bit of bite. I've used the original ones in the 10 degree and the 8 degree for a long time. And what they just came out with was my grind. And what it is, it's the J grind. Let's see if I can get it to you. Let's see, where's it at? There it is. Right next to the 10. Let's see. 10J. It's a J grind. It's Jim's grind. So what is Jim's grind? It's nothing more than a tour grind, really, what we would call it. So if you look, there's a lot removed from the back end, right? And not a lot removed from the back end, not so much on the front. And then this is that's part of the Jaws Raw where the leading edge is killed. So what this is this allows you to set and still open the club without the leading edge going way up. But it still has enough here that when you're taking normal swings, you don't hit diggers. And so I was hitting 1 yard shots, 1 yard pop ups. I even hit about I don't know, what was it, Bob? Probably about I don't know, 3 yard flop shot. And I thought, oh man, here we go. Took a big old cut at it, and it landed just where it was wanting to. And none of them truly really released. And that's kind of the idea here, is that when you hit a lot of these shots that they tend to hit and just pew. And in a lot of cases, what I was doing was getting jump, and then it would roll, and then it would stop, and it was stopping before the hole. So I'm a big fan. So I think it's a worthwhile if you guys are into new wedges and you haven't had a chance to. I would certainly give. And you're a guy that doesn't. It's not afraid to open a club if the conditions allow to do that. And it's a more forgiving wedge in my opinion. All righty, let's keep going. There you go. Thank you. Miss what little fall there is in Texas. Such a bummer. Yeah. I imagine you go right straight from like what, 8 months of summer, and then you get ice on one side, and then you get a little bit of nice, the transitional weather, and then you're right back into it. All righty. John Lamb, snow. What? Snow this morning in Valkyrie. Oh my gosh. Guess I won't be seeing any more golf balls around the course for a while. Yes. Road trip. Road trip. Man, sorry for that. Maybe it'd be time for that simulator league. Calgary. Okay. Sonny V, there he is. We haven't had be able to talk with you for a while. Looking for a place to go late November for a few rounds. Don't want to go too far south, but decent weather. Any recommendations? Yeah, late November. What do you think of Glade Springs? Is that a good idea? Yeah, she's not listening. So there's it depends on where you want to go, Sonny V. Yeah, I was talking with you. Well, but I'm yelling through the window. That's what he says. He's got West Virginia on there. Way to read it all. See, this is the kind of conversations that we have. Anyway, the West Virginia, I would go in November, Sonny V. I would go probably into the West Virginia region. It's a little bit further south, and with the likelihood of the golf courses being available. But yeah, what's this right here where we're talking straight through there? There's no delay through the screen. You are now, but you weren't beforehand. Talk to the hand. Talk to the hand. West Virginia is the only one I know of. That's what I was just saying. Yes, well, listen for the delay now. I agree. Good night. Too much cold medicine. All righty. So, in West Virginia, there are several places that you could go. There's called Ogilby Bay. That's kind of on the kind of same hemispheric line as we are, maybe a little further south. But I would look up Glade Springs. Peter says Greenbrier. Yeah, that's another one. Glade Springs is one that has 3 golf courses on it that you could try, each more difficult than the next. And then not far from there is the Greenbrier. You can try that as well. John says in Calgary, not Valkyrie. Okay. He's up there. Hate to hear that for you, buddy. Yep. Ron Hunter. Ron Hunter, that's a new name. Hello there, sir. Thanks for joining. My dog Rex, thumbs up, students. Thank you, sir. The only thing missing in Scott's order was a new bag for the clubs. I know, right? But I don't think he's going to have any issues with that either. Bag he had was actually pretty nice. And I see maybe him getting a Navy bag into the future. Charlie would like it. The reason why he came down was his son got frocked to a chief, and he's only 28 years old. And he's in your neck of the woods. He's a coner. And he was 26, sorry, not 28, but 26. And he's I believe he's an IT kind of guy, electronics technician kind of guy. You guys would be able to talk all kinds of stuff. Jack from Lombard, how are you, sir? Did the rain ever go through and just go away up there? We drove through and it just wanted to go. It just wanted to rain all day. All righty. Well, we hope to hear good things, buddy. John, would you soft step a wedge shaft that has 3 grams more weight and is about a quarter of flex stronger than the other shafts in the set? Would you soft step a wedge shaft that is 3 grams more weight and is about a quarter flex stronger than the other sands in the shaft? It depends. John, depends on what I'm putting them in. If you're talking going from a regular wedge like a sand wedge, or if you're talking about going from a like a pitch and wedge gap wedge that's part of a iron set and a quarter of flex, that's gonna, if you soft step it, that'll take care of that, no problem. The 3 grams, that's probably not going to be a big deal either at the short end of the set. So if you're going in like into the 9 iron, yeah, I wouldn't have any problem with that. What's in the glass? We had to celebrate with the new glass, Charlie. This is Glenfiddich 15. Glenfiddich 15. Although we've been looking at the bourbon trail here as of late and all the different places and things that we can do. Uh, the availability in this neck of the woods to us and being close to Kentucky is hard to ignore. To the point, Buffalo Trace, Wellers, that kind of thing. I ran into a couple of them again this weekend. The glass should be available in Canada. What? The glasses should be available in Canada, but they don't ship here. What? They don't ship to Canada? What kind of crud is that? I mean, they're packaged in cardboard armor. I mean, the thing's set. You've seen it. Well, if you watch the video, the thing comes in its own thing, and then they set it in a box with a bunch of wrapping around it. Wow, that's unfortunate. That just isolates a lot, and it's too bad. It's too bad, Michael, because those folks are really, really nice, and they do a lot of good. They give a lot back to the community, and the product is pretty cool, to say the least. Scotty, can you explain why someone would benefit from a center shafted putter? Oh, Scotty, I think that's funny because that's all I ever putt with. And the last fitting I was telling you about, the side saddle was a center shafted putter. And those seem to be growing in popularity a little bit. So what's the difference? All right, so let's talk about that a little bit. As a whole, and I'm going to use the driver, and we're going to talk about this driver. As a whole, what you'll see is that a lot of the putters are, we'll call them heel mounted. All right. And just how far into the heel, whether it's right at the very end of the heel, like some of those half moons, like a Phil Mickelson would have used, or the old timers, but some start right about here. And there's a dimensional property where you can't go too far from the heel. And then that's where most of them were from. And the idea here was that you would putt and it would, in the arc, that there's some level of an arc in order to get that. Well, that was in the day. Now the new school of thought is to try and take that putter back like this and get through it. Well, unfortunately, about 90% of them, it might go straight back and straight forward, but the face opens and closes in a straight line. Now, how do you fight that? Right? How do you fight that? Well, or why would you fight it for that matter? And then what we had is face balance came into point. And face balance was face, when you balanced it, went straight up in the air with the idea that it would aid in doing this. And it does to an extent, particularly if you're holding on to it. Enter lab golf. Lab golf balances it so that instead of it balancing like this, it balances in the line of the putt. So there's virtually no torque. Now, does that make one better than the other? If you talk to lab, the answer is yes. If you talk to the guys with face balance, the answer is yes, to both to their side. It's and about the way that you perceive your putt. All right. Now, lab golf is almost purely center shafted in order to get to where the zero torque is at in order to go like this. That company is starting to gain traction. Now, does that mean all the face balance ones are poor? No. It means that you can putt with them all day long based on how you putt. Now, that's all. I got to use that as a basis. Now, center shafted putters tend to mimic guys that want to do that are very good like this. Straight back, straight forward. Even if you were to go straight back and straight forward and go through that, you very well may get away with a center shafted putter. The pro and the con. All right, the pro is it's easy to putt with because it doesn't want to come off. A lot of cases, even at center shaft, it'll want to do this. Sometimes it'll be like that. Very rarely is it like that, and it wants to go to the close, which a lot of putters don't do. The con is that because it does this, it sits because the shaft sits here. Any little tweak of your hands is magnified a little bit, and so you got to be careful with that, and so you have to be very careful about your putting stroke. But if you're straight back, straight forward, or you don't have a lot of arc, then center shafteds would do very, very well for you. Now, a lot of people go, "Oh, I love center shafted putters." I would be one of them. However, in talking with a lot of putter manufacturers, center shafted putters are probably the least amount sold. So I don't know if they're just saying that so that I will get off of them, or they're saying it because we as golfers we scream center shafted, and then when it comes time to buy them, we don't. And because if you bought them, they would make them, and they would start investing all kinds of this, that, and the other thing into it. So to help you out again, Mizuno is releasing a mallet style, about a rosy style shape, center shafted. Okay, Makefield putters, all their models save one, every last one of them comes center shafted and heel shafted because it's a very symmetry. It's got a lot of symmetry, so they can do that. Uh, who's got another one? Lab obviously is all their models are center shafted. Peretti used to have a couple. I've got one that was center shafted. I would imagine Bettinardi does, but to tell you which one it is, it escapes me because the more traditionals like the Scotties of the world, the Bettinardis of the world, those guys, they don't like them. They don't like them. They don't think it works. So there you go. Hopefully I answered it. Jack King, dealing with aeration at the time of year. Besides the leaves with the leaves, you lose your golf balls. There you go. So man, you got both things. It's like a battlefield, and you can't find your golf ball. All right, there you go, Michael. We can help you out. Ryan Crow, it's too close to dinner time to be showing pictures of those ribs. You're making me hungry. Dude, I got to tell you, I'm not a big. I'm like the worst critic for all my food that I cook, but these last ones were pretty good. They were bite through with no strings attached, so that was pretty cool. I liked them a lot. Garrett Clemens, what do you say, bud? Haven't been here 68 months. Glad to pop in for a minute. Well, glad that you're here. If you got any questions, throw them in there, bud. John Lamb, if you want to chuckle, they were blowing out the irrigation lines on the course this week. My big brother was about 3 foot away from a sprinkler head when they popped it up in air compressor. Drown rat. I guess that's a surprise, isn't it? There's been a lot of that stuff. If you get on there and you see golf, you go look up golf course fails. Holy cow! There was something that you can only dream of in a lot of cases, and there's people out there doing it. I'm like, holy moly! So it's pretty cool. I'm kind of interested to see what this trip to Pinehurst with this crew that we're going with. These guys, these guys like to have a good time, and so this will be, and we like to have a good time. We like to play good golf. And typically what happens is we go around and we'll play 18 for our own score, and then we'll turn around and we'll scramble another 9 or another 18, and then go drink and stay up and tell lies until we get too tired. All righty. There you go, Robin, telling everybody hit the like and the thumbs up. Thank you. Henry, thoughts on a bending hollow body irons weak to temper distance, maintain forgiveness, reduce offset. Can it work that way, or are there other factors? So, Henry, if you wanted to bend them weak, I don't see that being a problem. You just can't go grossly weak. For instance, the hollow bodies, Mizuno's 245, I believe it's 225 right now. 245 coming out. The Rogue, or well, would it be Rogue Pros, or even the new Apex Pros would be in that particular lineup, and the ZX4s. Okay, now the ZX4s are the strongest of the clan, and bending those I would have no problem because it's set in a soft skeleton, and those things you can bend. The other ones I would be scared to go more than a couple of degrees, but yeah, you could bend them. And now the idea, maintain forgiveness, yeah, and reduce offset. Now here's the thing with the offset part of it. And it was a big discussion. There's on Facebook, there's a thing with club builders and club fitters, and that became a thing about bending. Can you bend loft into a putter? And they said, or I'm sorry, bend offset into a putter. And they said, yeah, just increase the loft or decrease the loft, and that would deal with your offset. I don't agree. Okay. And the reason being is the offset is a measure, and from a technicality point of view, maybe so, but effectively, I don't think it works. So offset is a measure of the leading edge of the face to the leading edge of the hosel. Now, effectively, if this had a zero offset, and you were to bend it 1 degree weak, meaning going this way, you would have effectively, it's an offset. So did you change this part of it right here? The answer is no, you didn't. But from the measure from here, making this a little bit stronger, the from a technical point of view, yeah, you add a little bit of offset, but in reality, no, you did not, because you did not impact. When I do this, so right here, if I was to bend this strong and go like this, did I make it more offset, or did I just make it weaker? Right? Is that's the difference? Did I just make it weaker? Now, if I went the other way, did I take the offset out of it by making it stronger? By design, no, because the offset needs to go like this and come out and be the difference between here and the whole leading edge, not just part of the leading edge. That's my argument to it. Okay, technically, probably the answer would be yes. Reality, I would have to say no, because all you're doing is adjusting loft, right? And that's really what's happening there. But the answer your regular question, can you do it? Yeah, I wouldn't have any problem. If you can't bend them a couple of degrees, they're not a very good club. John Lamb, yeah, waking up to the white was a bit of a rude awakening in my morning coffee. No doubt. I guess that would, if especially if you didn't know it was coming, to walk out and go, "Oh, look, hey, hon, there's snow on the ground." Yeah, that sucks. And I mean, good night. Especially if you didn't know if it was coming. Hopefully, it doesn't stay. How about that? Hey, John Jambor, how are you, sir? Great stuff as always. Thanks from Sturgis. Ooh, South Dakota. All right, my dad went to South Dakota. Yeah, in the college. Very good. John Jabor, PGA, hope see ya. Okay, nice. Post 311. Good man. Thank you for tuning in. My dog Rex. TJ Pierce. Here's another one. Hello, everyone. Got one of those new Groove It Wet scrub towels. Like it a lot. There you go. That, I like it. Those things are pretty nice. Uh, I've got one on my bag. I got one in the shop, and that I use to clean up stuff uh, when the clubs are really gross, and to keep mine clean. And I like the idea that it's magnetically attached, so I don't have to undo a clip. That was probably the best idea of the whole thing. Ryan Tracy, any chance of ever doing a live tutorial with somebody or making club class for the public? Still struggling on getting my ferrules done well. Well, now that you mention that, yeah, yes, that's the what I can tell you now. I don't want to lead you down something that's going to happen on a certain time, but if we go to the very top and we look at Matthew, uh, and we go here, Mr. Revlock is going to come see us. and you may very just get your wish. Now, I have been considering, I'm trying to find you again. There we go. 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 Right. Oh, there we go. So, in the world of technology, they make uh, these cameras like you're seeing now, and they've got them on a base that's programmed to follow you. And you can give it hand signals to tell it to stop or zoom in or do that kind of stuff. And I've had the idea of doing that, or even having Mrs. McGolf behind the camera and keeping it focused in order to do that. And I wanted to start with regripping, just as something that can be done easily, just so we can get our feet wet, knowing what we got to do going forward. So that very well may be. I've been toying with that idea too, Ryan, in order to do that. So uh, look for that into the future. Maybe we start seeing snow. All right. Joshua Fish. Whoop, he got out of there. It's going slow. Thank you for helping these videos. Well, you're more than welcome, sir. Tracy saying, hey, Robin. Garrett, careful doing that. You can snap the shaft that way. What were we talking about? Let's go back up and talk to Garrett. No, I don't know. We get there. John McClellan, what do you say, sir? Hello from Toronto area. Not too bad. Loving the equipment chat. Jim and the glass are awesome. 1 hour frost delay on the course this morning, but gorgeous after the day after that. I tell you what, that's the same thing that we had, John. In Toronto, you're only about, I think you're only like 4 or 5 hours north of me right now. We mistakenly went that way prior to going to Kings Bay, not Kings Bay, uh, over where Accra's at. King something. Anyway, we had to take that. I think it was called the A4. Holy smokes! But yeah, nice place up there. Yeah, but we had the same thing. Kingston, that's it. And um, but we had the same. Had to scrape the windshield off. About 2 hours later, you never know that was even there. I need a caddy, no doubt. Well, Bob's going to be there. He's probably going to be the A man in one of the groups, so hopefully I get to play with him. I played Pinehurst number 5, number 8, both great courses. Love Pinehurst. That's kind of where we want to. In one of our other trips, when we go with Bob and we go with the wives, we go back down there. That would be a bucket list trip for me to get on number 2 and get into the thing what they call the was the chain is now the new one that they've got over there, and then go play on the other little courses that they've got. I think that would be a lot of fun. Garrett lives kind of close by. Joe Palace, what do you say? Hello there. Obtained a set of 1-length iron heads. All right. Some guidance on what shaft to install for a senior swing. Tips on installing them. Irons are 1 in zone. All right. So think of it this way, Joe, that you're making a whole set of 7 or 8 irons, right? And what I mean set like a 7 iron or an 8 iron, not 7 or 8 total. And that's probably the easiest way to go about building, okay? Because effectively all those clubs are going to be the same weight, probably in that 275 to 279 range. They're going to be in that range, which is like a mid to heavy 7 iron. All right. Uh, and you're going to be right there. So you're going to be building them for that. Why is that? Because most people love a 7 iron. So you're going to be building a bunch of 7 irons. Now, if you wanted to get a little bit fancy and you get up into, say, the 6, the 5, the 4, you may trim just a little bit less to make it play just a little bit softer, to give it just a little bit more kick so they can get out there just a little bit more. Now, the other thing that you could do is there's a group out there that does nothing but, it's called Pedersen. I believe that's how you pronounce it, Pedersen shafts. They make shafts that are specific to the different heads. So they got a set for long irons, they got a set for mid irons, they got a set for short irons. And they're specifically made to do those. So it takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. You can do a little bit of a trim, shove them in the club, do the butt trim, and away you go. Makes it easier. And they're extraordinarily nice shafts too. All righty. I'll be getting way too much spin. I've been getting way too much spin on my 9 iron, 60 degrees. How do I not spin it as much on the green? Ball will spin off like crazy. Well, typically if you've got a crazy amount of spin on the low end, it means that you're coming into it probably a little steeper than say your 8, 7, or 9, and you're coming into it a little steeper, so you're getting a little bit more bite. Uh, if you're one of those guys that plays the short irons off the back and the long irons on the front, move the short irons forward into the stance and just takes off that little bit of bite. And again, just like we were talking before, doesn't have to be a great amount. Just move it up just ever so slightly so you don't feel uncomfortable, and it shallows that club into the ball so you're not just pounding down on it and sending it up in the air and watching it hit and zip backwards. That's probably the best way to do it. Now, another way to do it is, and it's crazy that you would think this, but you might lighten the shaft, and that'd be another way of going through it. Steven, what do you say, sir? First time I'm watching my drawers, although I've commented on many of your YouTube videos. Yeah, you're a big Wilson guy, if I remember correctly. Thank you for joining us. Welcome. All right. The paint guy asking a paint guy question. Truly, right? Truly. That's pretty cool. But I mean, that's how I do it, bud. Let's see if this works. Ooh, scary. Okay. That's just what it is. You really don't need all of that. Just wipe it off. There you go. Just wipe it off. Well, that's when it's first on there and drying, then yeah. But if it's not, then just wipe it. All righty, there's Steve. Henry, as you can tell, struggling with long iron consistently, which moves much more right to left than I want, and feel the height is 10 too low. Okay, so yes, what you're thinking of there, it's a couple things. This might be a swing thing. Uh, So there's a couple things. If you're swinging in flatter and it's doing a little bit more drawing, and you're coming in with the club up, yeah, flattening it might do just exactly what you want it to do. This is assuming that you're making good contact. This to me, if I'm listening to it, somebody asking me this question, it screams to me that your clubs are probably a bit too long. Meaning that if you choke down a half of an inch, would that same thing occur? And if you did that, and it's not just to fix the top irons, that maybe that even as you go through the set, your ball striking will improve ever so slightly the other way. So I would check it out. So I would check it out about choking down. All righty. Hey, there's you go. Okay. Scott played, oh, Valley of the Fin Old Links. Okay. Narren and Portnew. Man, these are places I've never heard of. Belmet, Strahill, Hill, also Nine Horse Course. Ah, there's the Nine Horse. Crude Island, awesome scenery. Very good for you. Are these in the northern part of Ireland? Because there's some pretty cool names. Alrighty. BZ's back. I found that reverse mount was affected. Oh, here we go. I found that reverse mount was affected on the Capto update. Talked with Francesca, and they will have an update the next day or two. So heads up for you guys. Thank you. So what PZ's talking about is we both have the Capto, and they did an update, and we're on our way to Wisconsin, and I just haven't had a chance to check it out. Well, PZ's using it, and it was giving him fits, and it turns out that there was a glitch in the update. So we're getting ready to see. All right. Scotty, can you do a video on adapters and what happens when you adjust them and how adjusting loft affects lying or vice versa? Yeah, I think we did that in one. It was just very rarely. It was just very little covered up, but that might not be a bad idea. In a golf clubs explain. We'll check that out. Steven used to have a PM grind wedges. They were good. I didn't think that they were a problem. It was just that they were heavy. I just did not like the weight. Peter Greenbrier, I would agree again. Charlie was 28 when he made chief, so this is not too bad, right? He was 26, so that's not too bad. You saw the young man. He looks like he's a poster child for becoming a chief, dude. You see this guy, you just go, "Yep, he's a chief." And he just looks so young. And so I guess that's because I'm so old. But good kid. About 15 years ago, I played in Glade Springs, a beautiful resort course. There you go. Bill Nauman tried listening to McGolf and my Phillies at the same time. Ooh, there's a tough one. That was a long time ago. You better believe it. There we go. Look at that. Go Navy. Never again volunteer yourself. My son Scott got us tickets to the Army Navy game December at Gillette. Nice. He served in the Army. Okay. Very cool and a great experience. Yep. My lab putter has many DP world players using them. Oh, the lab putter has many DP using and is growing on the PGA Tour. Yes, it is. Lab Force is a great concept. I couldn't get over the branding iron look nor the sound. That's Stephen. That's exactly what I call it. I call it the branding iron, and I just can't get around it. And I played with a couple of right-handed ones when we did the Maryland trip with the My Golf Spy people. A couple of guys had them, and I did this ting. I just no, and it honestly I didn't think it had the feedback. Now the Mez Max, and I'm going to assume in the link, based on what they've learned, is a much better feedback and a much better result. Yep, then Scotty is right there. Why don't Williams make woods hybrids with bendable hosels outside with Sean? Seems better for fitters and you can eliminate those pesky adapters. Well, it's because not everybody can do it, Scotty. In a lot of cases, with the way things are now, for instance, we'll even talk about this one. In the day when they were bendable, the club was all, for lack of a better term, it was all one piece. And now with this is a cap. And it's a cap that goes all the way around. It goes all the way around to right about here. And then this is a piece, and this is a piece, and in some cases there's another piece right here. And it wouldn't, even if this did not have adapter in it, it literally could not take the strain of being bent without popping. You could get 1 or 2 degrees, maybe degree and a half, but unlike in the Washon ones, they're all welded pieces, and specifically his design, it starts here in a cup face and it goes up into the hosel, comes back around and comes down, and there's a big piece down here, so it's all one unit in order to be able to take that kind of change. I don't necessarily disagree with that. However, in the way that things are right now, the popularity with an adjustable hosel is just, and the things that they can do with them now, we're probably never going to get away from it. Victor Perez Jr. Hello, sir. How are you? I'm not a Wish or Wilson guy. I've never played them. I thought you played those. Oh, it must have been a different guy we're looking at. Big time. This other dude was a big time Wilson guy. His first name was Steven as well. Geronji, hello, sir. Northern Western Ireland. Cool. We'd have to get an email because that's where we want to go next. We want to go to the northern part of Ireland and then run up into Scotland again. I'm glad you liked it. Victor's been 3 weeks on the road. Whew. Ron's loving them P79s. We probably worked on them for him. Okay. There was There's a new over-the-post adapter hitting the market, allowing any shaft to be used. Ooh, that would like to see that. Like to see how it would work. Because that would be over the post to make a hosel. We'll see how that works out. That's got possibilities. We'd have you there, buddy. There we go. Last one, playing almost all Titleist TSRs, the Woods, 2200, the 100 S's. Look at you go, man. Well done. All righty. There you go. You'd probably know how to get around better than the rest of us. I'm sure of that. Okay, guys, we made it to the bottom, and we made it almost an hour and a half. It seems to be our usual number anymore. Again, really thank you so very much from around the world again. We've just been all over the map. That's been great. Good questions, too. These are really good things. Watch out for the video tomorrow about me actually destroying a club head. It's almost, it's almost filthy, but it's you get to see what it would take to remove this thing, and it's no joke. And so give it a look. Tell your friends. Remember to like and subscribe. And as always, let's see your scores go low.